Hey guys, I'm Mark, and this is how to send a good email. Now, this video is intended for my actual students this year who are in my class here, but this video is really for anyone, and it's a good refresher maybe even for some adults who send email. So let me go over just a couple of things that we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to talk about how to get to your email. This is very specific to my students, but it won't take long to get through that. Then we're going to talk about how to address an email. We'll talk about the header, things like the to field and the subject field. We'll also talk about CC and BCC and what those are and what they mean. We'll also talk about how to appropriately address the person you are sending the email to, how to format the body of your email, how to sign your email, and then finally when it's appropriate to send an email and that kind of stuff. And I'll mix that in, I'll weave that in with this lesson. I work for Ysleta Independent School District, YISD, and so the way you get there is you go to my.yisd.net and you log in with your account. And then you're going to click on Outlook Email. Okay, so you'll click on Outlook Email. All right, in order to send an email, you're going to click on New Message. So you'll click on New Message and you'll get a screen that looks like this. Now, I've cropped out my inbox for security and privacy reasons, but this is really the part of the screen that you need to see. The first thing I want to say is a really good tip, and this is for adults, this is for everybody. Do not put in the address first. Don't do it first, all right? That might sound strange, but I'll say it again. Do not put anything in the to field until you are ready to send your email. The reason for that is it's very easy to make a mistake and to have maybe not finished writing your email and to click send. There's all kinds of things that can happen. And so it's just best to write your email first, then address it, and then send it. Another thing to do is to also maybe don't put a subject first. This doesn't matter as much, but a subject should convey what the email is about. And I don't know about you, but when I start writing a letter to someone, it doesn't always end up being what I thought it was going to be, and I end up having to change the subject if I put it in there first. So a good rule is to kind of just go straight to the body of the email. Okay, now, letter writing is a skill that's been kind of lost because of email, unfortunately. People have gotten very casual with it because it used to be the casual way to send a message to someone, and the formal way was to actually write something out onto a piece of paper, stick it in an envelope, and send it off. But we don't live in those days anymore. Now, email is actually a formal form of communication. Emails are used in business. Emails are used in legal matters. Emails are used all the time. And so they are a formal form of communication. Now, since I'm your teacher, you address me as Mr. Johnston. So you can say, "Dear Mr. Johnston." However, I don't really know if you consider me dear to your heart. Many of you don't even know me yet. And so dear is kind of a weird thing to say. The best thing to do in a formal situation is to simply write out the person's name, Mr. Johnston, and then a comma, and then enter. Now, if you are writing something that's not quite super formal, you could write something like, "Hi, Mr. Johnston," or even "Hello, Mr. Johnston" is polite and it's nice. But if you're really just wanting to send a very basic email with straight to the point, then the person's name is fine. It can be considered, some people might think that's a little bit curt, a little bit short, and not as frilly or nice. For me, it's totally fine. I see, oh, Mr. Johnston. It's addressed to me. Okay? All right. Then comes the body of the email. Now, you're going to get different opinions on stuff like this. You do not need to indent in an email, even if you're writing paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. If you're writing these long paragraphs of stuff, which is probably not something you should be doing in an email, but still, you don't have to, go to the next line and indent and start writing another paragraph. What you do need to do is push enter a couple times and have a break before the next paragraph. Okay. You need to have a blank line in there. Okay. So let's just type up a quick email using some good language and just a good example of a good email today. A great way to start an email is to compliment the person you're sending it to. So this is a little bit funny because here I am addressing an email to myself. But I would say, Mr. Johnston, or thanking them. Thank you for a wonderful first day of school. There you go. You're really going to make the person feel good when they first look at your email, and they're going to see that, and immediately whatever you have to say next is going to sound better. Trust me. Okay? So, Mr. Johnston, thank you for a wonderful first day of school. I would like to
apologize for not turning in my assignment on time. How's something like that?
I would like...
Could you please accept my late work? How about something like that? Okay?
Now, at this point, you've asked your question. Okay? You don't want to ask a ton of questions in an email. You can, but if it's something to the point, then keep it to the point. Okay? Then at this point, you want to sign it. Okay? Now, one of my favorite ways to sign off, I guess, is cordially. Cordially. It's a funny word, weird looking word. And if I get a definition here, it is in a warm and friendly way or with intense feeling. Okay. So cordially is a good one because it's formal. You could write sincerely. There's some other kind of fruity ones like yours truly, which is kind of weird. If it's somebody that is like a family member, you could certainly say like love, or somebody that you love. You wouldn't really be appropriate to put that to like a teacher. Be kind of weird, but you could. There's a lot of different ways you can sign off. Okay, now you put a line break, so you push enter and then enter again. Then you're going to put your full name. Okay. And your title, okay, as it pertains to what you're doing. All right. So if this is just an email to your grandma, then she knows who you are, right? You don't need to put a title there. And as your teacher, I do have, a lot of students. And so sometimes when I see your name, I don't always know exactly who this email is from. I'm not quite sure immediately if it's a colleague. I'm figuring out from the context that this is a student telling me they turned in something late, right? But I would say do something like 8th period student STEM, 2, something like that. But anything in there that you can put in, 8th period STEM student. Also, if you have like a long middle name, or if you have like a 2 last names, putting that information there will help me identify you and make sure I know who it is that's sending this email, and make sure that it's legit, and that I can find you and answer your question appropriately. Okay, so that's very simple, guys, in how to send an email. At this point, I would look at my email. I would say, okay, the subject, this would be, I would put something like my late work today. Okay, no more than maybe about 4 or 5 words. You want to keep the subject short. Unfortunately, I get a lot of emails from kids, and like, let me just show you this. Watch. If I take this out of here and I were to take all of this out of here too, I get kids that type the entire message in the subject line. All right. Now that looks really weird when I get it in an email, when I get it in my inbox, and it's even harder to read. So do not do that. Okay. In the subject, so we said something like my late work, or my late work today, or can you please accept my late work? You could even put something like that. You could put a question in the subject line, but you want to still then say everything that you need to say. Even if you already said it in the subject line, you need to say it in the body of the email as well. So at this point, you're going to type in the address of the person you're going to send it to. Now, in this email system, if I click here, it's going to already start giving me suggestions. But I do want to point out the fact that sometimes names can be similar. So you need to be very careful. All right. I believe there is a Mark Johnson in the same district, and you don't want to send an email about me to him. Okay. There's several Johnstons, not Mark Johnstons. I'm the only Mark Johnston. But if you type my name in here, my email address may or may not come up. Okay. So you want to type in the full email address. But if you're my student, I have definitely given you my email address. You have my email address. You just type in the full thing right there. Now, what is a CC field? A CC field is a carbon copy. Now, let's say that your advisor has gotten onto you about your late work, and they recommended that you send this email, or they are in some way related, or let's say your mother or your father also had some issue. They wanted you to make sure that you did this. You could put that person's email address in the CC field. CC stands for carbon copy. I don't know if you've ever filled out one of these forms where it has like a copy. You'll get them a lot of times like at the auto store or a lot of different places, right? But it's where you press real hard and it transfers down through. It makes a copy of what you're doing right there in front of you. It's an old term used back from when they used to do this with printers, they used to do it with a typewriter, and they would use a sheet of carbon paper that would do it. So that's where the CC comes from. But the point is, the CC field is intended for somebody that the email is not written to, and doesn't even necessarily require that they respond or anything. It's just so that they can be aware of the communication. They can know that was sent. Now, if you're a student in my district, you can't put in any email addresses that have a different domain name. So, for instance, it has to end in nysd.net. So if they don't have a school email or a work email, you can't email them from your school account. Okay. Most of the time, you're not going to use CC or BCC, but you really should be aware of how they work. Now, BCC stands for blind carbon copy. You have to click on that little BCC link you saw over there, and then you get the BCC field. Now, the BCC field can be used for several things. It is useful, but that's a blind carbon copy. That means that I will not be able to, or whoever you send the email to, no one can see who was in the BCC field. All right, so let's say that I wanted to send this email out to a bunch of people. Not this particular email, but let's say I wanted to send out like an announcement, right? And I wanted to send the announcement to 85 different email addresses. A good way to do that is to send the email to yourself. So I would put my own name, Mark Johnston, up there in the to, or my email address in the to field. And then I would put the other people's email addresses in the BCC field. Okay, the BCC field is going to still send the email to those people, but when they get it, they'll see that the email was sent to Mark Johnston, and they won't see who else the email was sent to. And that's good for a couple reasons. That could protect the privacy of the other people's email addresses, and then it also helps to avoid something called
the reply all plague is a terrible, terrible thing. I'm now speaking mainly to adults here. And, I know It is a pet peeve of mine, but also all you really have to do is do a Google search on reply all etiquette, and you will find out exactly what I'm saying, okay?
So now that everything's done, I would just put in the email address that I wanted to send it to, and then I would click send down here. Now this little drop down button gives me some options. I can say send later. That's not really something I would ever use. It's if you're not sure you want to send it, then you should probably not send it or wait until you are sure to send it. You can save it as a draft, but that's not a good practice, the way to do that. In my opinion, that's not a good practice. Okay. So that's pretty much how to send an email. If you have any questions, let me know, but look at this format. This is so nice. It's easy to read. I can tell immediately who it's from. I can see the subject tells me clearly what it's about. And as soon as I read it, I go, they thank me for a wonderful day. That's nice. And I'll apologize. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm a forgiving person. Okay. And this, let you know that I was having, you were having technical issues with your computer. Okay. Could please accept my late work. And then I would reply to your email. Okay. And generally, good practice is you don't send an email if you need an answer sooner than 24 hours. Because replying to an email generally within 24 hours is considered acceptable. All right. Okay. So if you have questions, put them in the comments below. If you are not one of my students, or even if you are, and you know what I'm talking about with Reply All, and you would like to vent and talk more about what that means and how you feel about the Reply All button, please, by all means, do so. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and it was supposed to be just real quick. It's turned out to be a lot longer. It's turned out to be a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but I think all the information I covered was really good, and I really want to make sure that you guys send good emails. All right. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.